Okay, guys, look at the back of your rotations paper. The back of your rotations paper. On this side, we used our triangle and rotated it. But on the back, I'm going to wean you off of that. We're not going to have a triangle to use. We're just going to look at we're going to draw a figure and rotate it. So I want to start at 4, 2 for A. B is 8, 2. And C is 8, 10. We're in quadrant 1, aren't we? Okay. This is our pre-image. Okay. I want to make a 90-degree turn counterclockwise. That's what we're going to do today. We're just going to worry about counterclockwise. So if I want to go counterclockwise, I'm going to end up in what quadrant? 2. So come over here to the left over here and write 90 degrees. We're going to be in quadrant 2. So if I'm making a 90-degree counterclockwise turn over here, I'm going to turn my paper to the right. I'm going to turn my paper clockwise. And how do I know? Remember, let's go back. Remember, my center of rotation is at 0, 0, not point A. At 0, 0. So when I turn it and I'm over here, how do I know where to put it? What am I going to do? Good. I'm just going to do the original point. So I'm going to go over 4 up 2. That's going to be A prime. 8, 2 is B prime. 8, 10, C prime. Okay? Now, to find out what the coordinates are, actually, we're going to turn our paper back to the original direction, and I'm going to go A prime, B prime, C prime. So A prime is going to be -2, 4. B prime is -2, 8. And C prime is -10, 8. Okay. Now, let's look at the coordinates. We made a 90-degree turn. What happened to the numbers? Without looking at the sign, what did we do to the numbers? They're just, oh, I forget I'm recording. They're just switched, aren't they? So the numbers are switched on a 90-degree turn, but why are all the X's negative? We're in quadrant 2, and on quadrant 2, X's have to be negative, Y's have to be positive. Did y'all get that? Okay. So what we're going to do, like we did yesterday, we're going to go back to our original, our pre-image, and we're going to make a 180-degree turn. Okay? So we're going to pretend that we didn't do that. So we're just going to do 180 degrees. So I'm going to go 90, 180, be upside down. If I did a 180 dunk, y'all would be impressed, right? I'd be totally backwards. So I'm still going to use the same coordinates, over 4, up 2. And let's just go ahead and put A prime, because we're pretending we're just made this one turn. A prime, 4, 2, 8, 2, B prime, 8, 10. Once you get it drawn, turn it back around so we can get our coordinates. We've made a 180-degree turn. We're in quadrant, what? 3. Okay, so A prime is what? Negative 4, negative 2. B prime is negative 8, negative 2. C prime is negative 8, negative 10. Okay, so let's look at quadrant 1's coordinates, our pre-image we started with. What happened to the numbers? They stayed the same. Why are all these negative? Quadrant 3, they're negative, negative. Good job. Okay, we're starting with pre-image. We're going to make a 270-degree turn. So we're going to go turning our paper to the right, 90, 180, 270. 4, 2, A prime, 8, 2, B prime, 8, 10, C prime. Okay, and once you get it drawn, turn it back around, rotate it back to the original position. We made a 270-degree turn. We're in quadrant 4, IV, it's 4. A prime, B prime, C prime. So A prime is 2, negative 4. B prime is 2, negative 8. And C prime, 10, negative 8. Okay, so let's compare quadrant 1 and quadrant 4's coordinates. The numbers are switched. And why are the y's negative? Because you're going positive, negative to get to the points in quadrant 4. Good? We good? Okay. I'm gonna send the hole punch around so you can hole punch it. Hey, Judy, it's on my desk right there. I think we threw the other one away. It's messed up. I had 3 and now I'm down to 1. I think there's not one back there. Okay. I'm going to turn this on. Okay. So now we're going to do our notes for rotations. So on the next, on your, this class will have, you're on page what? Braden. So on page 23, you're going to put this page. Everybody else you're going to do on the next page. Some have 14, some have 15 in your spiral. Okay. So what I'm going to do is give you coordinates 4, 5, 1, 2, 6, 7. What quadrant would those points be in? 1. Okay. Let's talk about this just. Oh, wait. We need to do something before we do that. Hang on. On rotations, it's very, very, very important that you know what quadrant you're in. Translations, reflections, doesn't matter. But on a rotation, it matters where you start. Just like at a track meet, if you're doing the 100-meter dash, does it matter where everybody starts the race? Yeah, everybody's got to start at the same place. Okay, so it matters. So on rotations, it matters where you start the race. And I want to go back on reflections, and I need to say this real quick. When we did reflections, okay, when we reflected across the x-axis, when I told you you started with x, y, that didn't mean they were both positive. It could mean that, but one might be negative, positive. It didn't matter, did it? But when you went across the x-axis, what did you know happened to the x? It stayed the same. And what happened to the y? It flipped the sign. You flip the sign. So when you're doing reflections, when you're flipping, you're not adding or subtracting. You're not adding or subtracting anything because you're not sliding and moving it. You're actually flipping. So you're just flipping the signs. So over the x stays the same. Y changes signs. So if I'm going over the y-axis and start with xy, what happens? It's going to be the opposite of x. Whatever x is, it's the opposite. And y stays the same. This is what the rule is right here. This is the rule. That's how you write the rule. Okay? That's on reflections. Some people got that mixed up. They didn't understand quite how to write the rule. And I needed to tell you this because of what we're about to do. Needed to kind of distinguish between the two. Okay, so on the bottom of your notes down here, I decided to use A and B to write the rule just because we just did X and Y. When I put AB here, I mean they're both positive because it matters where you start your rotation, what quadrant. So if they're both positive, we're going to be in quadrant 1. If I make a 90-degree counterclockwise move, I'm going to be in quadrant 2. Now, who can tell me the trick, the rule, what happens when I go from 1 to 2 I'm making a 90-degree turn. What am I going to do with my coordinates? Switch them, right? I'm going to switch them. But it's going to be what, Tatiana? Negative B, positive A. Why? Because we're in the second quadrant. So it's very important. It's very important that you know what quadrant you're in. You got to know what quadrant you're in. So on a 180-degree turn, now from 1 to, I'm going to go from 1 to 3. If I make a 180-degree turn, I'm going from quadrant 1 to quadrant 3. I started in 1. Okay? So what am I going to do to the coordinates? Keep them the same, but now they're going to be both negative. Why? I'm in quadrant 3. And that's one thing you do. When you make a 180-degree turn, you leave the numbers alone, you swap the signs. Positive to negative. They could be negative, you go to positive. But look at your quadrant you're in, and then you know for sure what signs that they're going to have. Okay? If I make a 270-degree turn from 1, I'm going to be in quadrant 4. Now, what are my coordinates going to be? B, negative A. So when I do a 90-degree and a 270-degree turn, I'm going to switch the numbers. I'll look at the quadrant I'm in, and that determines the signs. I'm in quadrant 4, and to get to quadrant 4, here's 1, 2, 3, 4. In quadrant 4, to get to any of these points, I've got to go positive, then negative, don't I? Positive, then negative. Okay. Think we know the rule, the trick? Okay, so let's go back up to this. So, if I'm making a 90-degree counterclockwise turn, and this is important too. If I'm going clockwise from 1, I'm going to go to 4. But since I'm going counterclockwise, I'm going to be in 2. Okay? So I'm making a 90-degree turn. I'm going to be in quadrant 2, counterclockwise. So what do I need to do with my coordinates? Switch them. 5, 4, 2, 1, 7, 6. And I apologize, I didn't make that really parentheses far enough apart. But since I'm in quadrant 2, the signs are going to be, X is going to be negative. Good. So just kind of come out there. So all the X's are going to be negative because we're in quadrant 2. You have to go negative, then positive. If I make a 180-degree turn from 1, I'm going to be 1, then I'm going to 3. I'm going from 1 to 3. That's going to be a 180-degree turn. What do I do with the numbers? Keep them the same, but we're in quadrant 3, so they're all going to be negative. Every one of them is going to be negative. If I make a 270-degree turn, I'm going from 1 to 4. So what do I do with my numbers? Flip them. And then what's going to be negative? The Y. It's going to be just the opposite of the 90-degree turn, isn't it? Okay, are there any questions? Y'all think you got the trick now? Okay, so I'm giving you this one. I'm going to add a 0 in there. Does that matter? Does the 0 matter? No, the only thing is you're not going to have a negative 0, are you? You don't have to worry about the sign on 0. Okay, so all these coordinates would be in quadrant 1. So if I make a 90-degree counterclockwise turn, I'm going to be in 2, then 3, then 4. Okay, go. Fill out the chart. Then we're going to check it. Okay, we all through? Okay, so when you make a 90-degree turn, what do you have to do to the coordinates? Switch them. Is anything going to be negative? The X. Because you're in quadrant 2. When you're in quadrant 2, you have to go negative, then positive. Okay, now we're doing a 180-degree turn. Do we flip the numbers? No, leave the numbers just as are. But what do you know about each? All going to be negative. Except the 0. Everything's negative because we're in quadrant 3. Now, if I make a 270-degree turn, flip the numbers, and what's going to be negative? The Y, because you have to go positive then negative. Okay, we good? We got this, huh? Okay, now I'm going to change it up a little bit, and we're going to start in a different quadrant. Negative 3, 4, negative 1, 9, negative 5, 2. What quadrant are we starting in? Second. So I'm still going counterclockwise. So go. Fill out the chart. Stop the video and then turn it back on when you're through with the chart to check. I forgot to mention this. I know you probably noticed, but on the charts on this page, I went ahead and did X, X prime, X double prime, X triple prime, because I just wanted you to see it one time where you might do several rotations in a row. I would hope you didn't, but you could. And if you did that, you would have to, the first rotation would be X prime, X double prime, X triple prime. Okay? So what'd you get for the first rotation, 90 degree? Negative 4, negative 3, because we're in quadrant 3, so everything's negative. But you're doing 90-degree turn, so you have to flip the sign. So negative 9, negative 1, flip the numbers, negative 2, negative 5. If you do a 180-degree turn, it's going to be 3, negative 4. Okay, so you flip the numbers, and you also flipped the signs, didn't you? Because negative 3 went to 3, 4 went to negative 4. You're in quadrant 4, and you have to have positive x, negative y. Good job. And then 270. You have to flip the numbers. You're in quadrant 1. Everything's positive. We good? Okay. Fold it, and we're going to glue it on the correct page in your spiral. So while you're gluing, I want to review real quick. If you make a 90-degree turn or a 270-degree turn, what do you do to the coordinates? Flip the coordinates, look at the quadrant to determine the signs. If you make a 180, leave the numbers alone, change the signs. Very good. And look at what quadrant you're in. You can always check that. Very good. So you have learned how to do rotation. On Monday, we're going to do some on paper, just some examples and different kinds of ways they might ask the question.